I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up.
What up, Marie?
Good evening, Miko.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I am doing fabulous. It's another opportunity, a brand new year. What year are we in?
We're in 2023.
2023, a new year and a new story. That is what we bring to you tonight, a story of success. But first of all, who are we? We are Incarceration to Incorporation, Ain't to Ain't, as we allowed to call ourselves. And what do we do here on Ain't the Ain't? We provide a platform for men and women, returning citizens, relatives of returning citizens, and resources for returning citizens so that they can change the narrative, the false narrative that those of us, when we get out, we automatically go back into incarceration. And when we do these things, we love for you to share your stories because stories matter, especially when we talk about our organization, OAA, which stands for, Marie?
Encourage, empower, and educate.
I look at it, I caught off
Now,
guard.
guess what? It's the other way around. It's educate, empower, and encourage.
Listen, either way you say it, baby, it is awesome. Here at OAA, or Offender Alumni Association, what we do is we provide a safe space for men and women to come out and to share their stories. A safe space for men and women, whether it was 20 years ago or 20 days ago. Those who are coming home need that space to tell their story, because if we, Marie, myself, if we can be successful, so can you. And when I say successful, I'm talking about organizationally, educationally, relationally, occupationally. We are talking about success. And so that's why I'm so excited that OAA and also Ain't the Ain't as joint partners. Matter of fact, who has given us this opportunity to do this, Marie?
Julius Hall. Thank you, Mr. Julius Hall, for giving us this platform to come and share our story. And AB is the brainchild of Incarceration to Incorporate, which he's very successful. He got 3 businesses down in North Carolina, and he's doing very well for himself. He has been incarcerated, and recidivism is not a word for him because he is not returning to prison.
Oh, awesome, for sure. And so that's what we do here. You know, again, 2023, a brand new year, brand new stories, and we want to bring them to you. Before I turn it over to Marie, just to give you a recap and an update on what we're looking to do, I just want you to know that we are excited again. We want you to tell others who we are and what we do so that they can also share their stories. Marie?
Yes, OAA, this is 2023. We got a lot of exciting things coming for returning citizens, even into we're going to have new people on sharing their stories and how they're successful being entrepreneurs. And so me and Julius and I, even if we have to go, like I love that word that Julius say, out in the trenches. We love being out in the trenches. And we're going to have another like visual and verbal, what we have with the boys. We're going to be doing that again for the youth. So we're just looking up for an exciting year.
For sure. And we got a special guest that's joining us in just a few moments. But what I want us to do is I want us to remember those that we have left behind, those that we have left behind the wall. So often we get so caught up in the newness of the things that we got going on that we forget those that were behind the walls. And so I just want for a moment, think about that friend, think about that brother, think about that partner, think about that family member that you left behind. And I want you to remember them and also be intentional about doing things that will provide an opportunity for them. Marie, you got something to say on that?
Oh, I love it. I have met women who have life sentences that's not coming home. Well, I can't say that, Nico. I cannot say that because the laws change, policy change every day. And hopefully a lot of these women have been incarcerated for defending themselves. You know, and so in time, I know that they will come home. There's some amazing women that I have met behind the walls. You know, and I just really want the opportunity for them to come home so that they can be successful.
I agree. I agree 100.
Yeah,
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure each time we come on, Marie, and you hold me to this, each time we come on, we want to remember or encourage others to remember those that we've left behind the bars. Because I believe it is our job not just to represent them well, but also
right.
to remember them.
I like
Sound
what you say, Nico, that time when you say that while you're in prison, start preparing yourself so when you come home.
good?
And there's so many degrees that you can get in prison. You can go to school while you're in prison. Go ahead and educate yourself so when you come home, you can do what it is that you need to do for yourself.
Mm, for sure. I think, Maurice, because this is a new year, a new season, what we need to do, but as we wait for our guests, is we need to tell people how do we have that common denominator? Because they may not know your story or my story. So, if you will, briefly tell them how you are related to incarceration.
I'm related to incarceration. I did 18 months in prison. I did 18 months in prison, and it's been like almost 18 years. And I have not been back. And so, like Julius said, the word recidivism, they say that we people are going to return to prison. A lot of people learn their lessons, and I was one of them. You know, so I like to think that being a part of OAA and Incarceration to Incorporate to encourage you that you can do it, and there's something. There's people out here that can and want you to make it. You know, I know it wasn't easy for me when I first came home as far as getting a job, but now I have a job, I'm on house, I have my own car, I love traveling. So yeah.
And that for myself, Julius Campbell. And one thing that I'm excited about is to remember the story that I like to share. 26 years I was incarcerated. That is not boasting and bragging. That is simply sharing my story. And now look where we are. 3.5 years later, the doors have been open for me to do a number of things. This podcast, first of all, that Marie Jones and myself have, we are able to share our stories. The job that I have now, working for an organization that allows me to work with system impacted youth, I am able to share my story, lived experiences of who I am and where I come from. Not to say that I'm better than any, but to say that I've been there, and that makes me relevant and relatable to others. And also, this organization, Offender Alumni Association, we are able to work with system impacted adults. So here I am blessed. On my right hand, I'm working with system impacted youth, and on my left hand, I'm working with system impacted adults. And what do? We are mentoring, simply giving them our stories in hopes that they will not make the same mistakes that we ourselves have made. And in doing so, God has opened the doors for me to be a minister, a mentor, and a motivational speaker. I had an opportunity to do a TED Talk. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's how to help returning citizens succeed, because that's what we want to do. We want to be successful. And so there are
Mhm.
multiple things that I have been able to do, but I'm able to do these things because, Marie, you stated it, while I was inside, I was progressively preparing myself for the things that I'm doing now. While I was on the inside, I was studying how to be a motivational speaker. And when the door opened and the opportunity presented itself, wow, I'm there. Also, while I was on the inside, I was preparing myself for school. And now I'm blessed to be able to get my master's degree. And so I believe that we ought to progressively prepare to be the person that we desire to be. So
Hey,
walk right into those opportunities. So, Marie, I just wanted people to understand that you and I, can relate, that you and I are relevant to the topics that we're talking about. And if you and I can be successful, so can they. Do you agree?
yes, our guest is here, Miko.
I see him. I see him. So, without further ado, I want to give an opportunity for James to, first of all, introduce himself and then tell us a little bit about who he is and where he comes from. Can you hear me, James?
Yeah, I hear you a little bit. I don't know, it went down. How y'all doing? Blessings, man. Blessings. Blessings, King. Blessings, Queen. How you doing?
I'm
How you
doing well.
doing? Can you
All right.
hear me?
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you like a kid there.
Can you tell me your name and your affiliation to incarceration?
Okay. My name is James William Young III. I'm a returning citizen that was detained for 13 years, 6 months, and 8 days.
And
I am
okay,
now the
go ahead.
I am now the executive director of All Heart Seal and Prison Mines Incorporated, which is called I Am Inc. or I Am Incorporated, a nonprofit and social enterprise organization working in 4 different states: Jersey City, New Jersey, Bronx, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina.
Wow.
All right. Marie, for 1 second, do me a favor, let me make sure. Marie, when you ask a question, after you ask a question, put your phone on mute. Let's make sure there's not vibration coming out.
Yes.
Right now, hit mute. Let me see something. Okay, come back. All right. So there was a little feedback, but it's okay. So I want you, when you ask the question, ask it and then mute yourself, unmute yourself, and then ask it again. Okay.
Okay.
But right now, before you do that, I've already prefaced Mr. James with some questions. So James, I want you. This is your story. So I want you to tell us your story, and then Marie and I will interject from time to time certain questions. So start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your transition. Was it smooth or difficult? And then just ride. I've already talked to you in advance. So tell us. You can take the floor.
So, yeah, so my transition was actually, it was smooth. After my 13 years, while I was inside, what happened was I never lost sight of who I was. Like I never lost sight of the leader inside me, right? Because sometimes when we get in prison, we get caught up in adapting to the things around us. But what I did, I adjusted to the things around me, right? And the reason why I adjusted to it because sometimes, man, we can get compromised, right? We can get so complacent by being inside of a prison or institution, right? I didn't allow the officers to call me a number. I didn't allow them to call me an inmate. I didn't allow them to call me a prisoner, right? They either called me by my name or I didn't answer at all, right? I didn't answer at all. So what I did was when I was inside, I dealt with a lot of organizations, street organizations, right? And when I say street organizations, I'm talking about gangs. All right. I was one of the ones that was a part of it. And I wasn't a part of it because I was forced into it. I was a part of it because I was dealing with trauma, but also the trauma that it was heightened around me, right? Meaning bullying, extortion, things of that nature. I said, hold up. I need to do something to step up and change the game here. Shift the paradigm. So while in prison, that's what I did. I shifted the paradigm by joining them and changing it from the inside out. See, people didn't expect me to come in and start changing it in that way, in that fashion. No, man, y'all not a gang. You're not a gang. You're not a gangster. I mean, we guards, we earths. We can't carry ourselves like that. We can't harm each other. So that my transition was actually easier from inside on my way out.
And so can I ask you a question? That didn't cause you time for you to try to do that, being that you was a part of the game?
No, ma'am. No, nah, Queen. None at all. So, and my story is it's on my page. It's on my website. I dealt with top-notch dudes, right? OGs that been in the game over 13, 14 years, right? But I had a lot of young kids around me that was representing something that was falsified. It was a facade. So what I did, I talked to them about it. Why you joined this game? Was you forced to do it? Do you know the meaning of being a part of an organization? Did you know why these games was created in the first place? And the first one that said no, what I did was I informed them and I taught them, right? I taught them, these games were designed because we was being oppressed in our communities. It was designed because we didn't have the resources to take care of our family members, right? So what I did was, while I'm teaching them and telling them, like, look, I'm not telling you not to be a part of a gang. I'm telling you to be a part of an organization. It's a difference. See, a gang is a negative connotation toward man or toward woman. But if being a part of a street organization or a group and knowing the history of it, it'll change your mindset. And that's what it did with me. Oh man, I was called. I didn't join the game because I wanted to be a part of it. I was joining the game because the literature sufficed itself. The literature that I was reading was very enticing to me. They wasn't doing nothing negative or toward black people or toward women or toward elders. They was actually protecting them. They was the vanguards for the Black Panther Party. Bloods and Crips was the vanguards. They was guardians. They wasn't out in the streets doing harm to our community or to our neighborhoods. So what I did, I taught that. I taught that to the young adults. I taught that to the young kids, right? I taught that to the kids that was traumatized. And I got respected for that because they said I was cut from a different cloth.
Okay, so listen, as now what I understand, but whether you look at it truthfully or not, the negative connotation is there because of the acts and the behavior that follows that. So if you're trying to change the mind, then you're gonna have to find a creative way of doing it. But that's another story. What I wanted you to tell me is about your transition from incarceration to incorporation. How was your transition? Was it smooth? Was it difficult? Did you have housing, number one? Did you have gainful employment, number two? Did you have community support, number three? Talk to me about that.
Yes, so my whole ride inside the institution, I had my mother, I had my wife, and I had my uncle. And these are the only three people that rode with me the whole time. So while other people around me was unfortunate, no, they didn't have nobody. They didn't have family members. They didn't have friends. I did, right? And my mom said a person that prayed, right, or stopped praying is a person that will fail while inside this institution. So I never started praying. I never stopped praying while I was in there. And she told me to never give up because you never know who's praying for you. So my transition was actually, again, it was good because I already had my mind set on what I was going to do when I came home. See, prior to me coming into the institution, I lost my best friend to gun violence. And when I lost him, I lost a part of myself. You know what I'm saying? I lost a part of myself. And that's how I started doing that. I took that decline. I started going downward spiral. But nobody knew that. You know, I came from being an all-star basketball player in high school. My grades, I was an honor roll student, right? But I lost my best friend. When I lost my best friend, I started indulging in wrong actions. And that's what brought me inside the institution. But what happened while I was in the institution, I had a wake-up call. I was face to face with death. I had 5 officers, man, that beat me down to a pulp so bad that that both sides of my ribs was broken, and I was stuck inside solitary confinement for 250 days. But while I was in there for 90 days, not eating, right? Laying on the ground, bleeding out my mouth. I'm like, damn, thinking about everything from my beginning all the way to the moment now, my present, and thinking about my future. So here comes my transition. A nurse knocks on the door. She says, listen, I need to check up on him. I need to make sure he's all right. This is a lady that was her first day on the job. Every nurse that been there didn't think to open up the door and check up on him. She opened the door. She said, no, I got to take him to the infirmary and make sure he's good. This is my job. When she did that, here goes my awakening. Yo, Jay, you got to change the way you're moving. Because when I came in there, I didn't stop moving the way I was moving when I was on the streets. I was still hustling. I'm still running with a gang. I'm still doing a whole lot of stuff that I should not be doing. When she did that, it changed my whole lifestyle. It changed my whole frame of thinking, my frame of mind. And this is what I did. I started going to school. I started studying political science. I started studying social work. I started studying mental health first aid to become a peer specialist. And when I did that, I said, when I go home, I'm going to change the game. I'm going to make sure every young brother or young sister that looks like me and came from an area I come from, I'm going to show them what's real and what's fake. Here's the transition. No, it was hard, but it was easy because I already had it here. It was already in my heart and it was already in my mind. I knew what I wanted to do before I got in. Sometimes when you go through trauma or a traumatic experience, it detours you from your real purpose. So I had to go back and deprogram myself to, what's your real purpose, Jay? What is your goal? And my goal was to heal, man. I just wanted to heal my community and save my neighborhood. Look out for my neighborhood. I didn't want to be greedy no more. I didn't want to cause harm to the same place I reside in and I lived at. My kids lived there. My mother lived there. My kid's mother lived there. I didn't want to do that again. So here comes All Hearts Heal in Prison Minds. All Heart Heal in Prison Minds, it directs all its attention to the 4 corners of an urbanized community where brothers and sisters are dealing with traumatic experience and not getting no help. Saving the heart and minds of our young adults, taking the guns out their hand, putting books in it. Taking the guns out their hand, putting computers in it. If they're missing a father or missing a brother or a sister, we put incredible messages in these spots, in that void, to help them shift their paradigm and shift their movements in the streets. That's where the healing process came in that. Because we knew what was missing, because I was missing the same thing. So I empathized with them. Instead of judging them, I empathized with them. And I start putting components there that can help them rise.
So you jumped though. I need you to help us to understand. When you came home and you wanted to save people, you had to first save yourself. So did you have difficulties getting a job? Did you have difficulties getting housing? Tell us a little bit about the interim between your release and your success.
Okay, so I had a wife. I came home to, so I had housing. You know, again, you know, God works in mysterious ways. I had a wife that stood there and rode with me the whole time. So I did have housing. As far as my job, I believe a lot of people just don't put up the effort or give themselves enough chance to go out there to get one. So what I did, I went through a temp agency. When I went through the temp agency, I got me a job that I held on for 5 years. And this is very, very, very serious and imperative. I want you to hear this. We come home and we think that we're supposed to just have things given to us instead of going out and searching for it, right? I didn't wait. I came home 3 days. I went and got a job from a temp agency. I didn't make no excuses. I didn't make no excuses. I went out and got my job. I knew that's the first thing that parole gonna want me to have. I got my job. When I got my job, I felt more at ease because now I'm no longer getting a check from the streets, but I'm getting a check from the state. Right? I'm no longer worrying about the void in my life, which was love and trust, because I had love and trust there all the time, which is my wife. And she was holding me down. And I had my mom, and then I had God. God first over everything. So that was my transition. Was it hard? I'm gonna tell you what was hard. The hard part now was trusting people, right? From leaving from a street where, you know, being a drug dealer and not trusting no one, not letting nobody in, it was hard for me now because now I'm changing and I gotta have trust in people that I've never had trust for. And it was hard. That part of my life was hard when I came home. I couldn't trust nobody. But I had to start letting people in one by one, besides my mother and my wife. So now I'm like, oh damn. In back of my mind, I said, oh, he's just here to try to get my money, or he's just here to try to fuck my wife. Right? But some of these dudes was actually genuine. They actually was there to check up on my well-being. You know what I'm saying? And it took me about 4 years, man, before I really opened up to friends that never was there while I was incarcerated. And I say that because sometimes people just don't want to see you when you in your lower self. You know, we start pointing fingers, but at the same time, they didn't make the choices we made to get there. We did. Or I did. And I had to start realizing that. You know what I'm saying? So the transition was, yeah, it was hard, but it was worth it. But it was worth it because now I stopped pointing fingers at everyone else and start seeing my decision. I start taking accountability for my actions. Something that I never did before.
All right. Ms. Jones, do you have any questions?
No, Miko.
Okay.
I don't have any questions for him.
Okay. I want to ask you another question. Now that you've told us about your transition and the steps that you take to make where you are now, how did you get the opportunities to start being successful in your organization? And also, what are some things that you do practically to help change the mindsets of the young people?
Oh man. Okay. So again, the trust again, right? My cousin had an organization called Neighborhood Benches up in Harlem. And he said, look, man, just give me a chance, man, before you go back to the streets. Just give me a chance. Just give me a year. I said, what you mean a year? He said, give me a year. I want you to work with me with this program. I want you to be my outreach coordinator. Right? And I'm like, what? I said, nah, bro. I said, I'm just coming home. I need some bread. And he was like, he said, I'm going to give you the bread, but I need you to trust me. Right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you. I said, but I'm not giving you a year, bro. I'm giving you 6 months. So within this 6 months, he's sending me to all these classes, going to all these colleges. And these colleges that I'm going to, I didn't know at the time was working on trauma reform. And I'm thinking it was just working on trauma reform for the people around me, but it was also for myself. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to school, I'm learning things, I'm taking notes. And while I'm taking notes, I'm starting to see myself in these notes. And I'm like, oh, damn. I said, man, maybe I do have an anger problem, right? I ain't go to jail for hurting nobody, but maybe I do have an anger problem. Maybe I do hate myself. So when they start asking me questions, why don't you name 5 things you love about you, right? I always stopped at 2. And he like, that's the only thing you love about yourself? And I'm like, I mean, what else? I mean, this is important. And he's like, nah, bro. So as I'm learning to love me from the inside instead of from an outside or materialistic way, I'm like, this is the same thing that most of our kids are going through as well. They don't know their self-worth. I'm learning how to love myself first before I can love others. So check it. Why it was so easy for me to do what I'm doing now? Because every time I see a young kid or a young man or a young lady, I don't see them as work. I don't see them as I'm their doctor or their counselor, right? I say, look, man, I'm the same person as you. I'm leveling down to your level. I don't want you to see me with my suit on or my dress pants on or my button up. I want you to see me with my hoodie on and my Jordans on. I'm coming down to your level. So when I go to the streets and I talk to these young kids, this is how I'm dressing. I'm dressing the same exact way. So now they don't feel like they're being evaluated. Here's my program. I'm knocking on doors. You can't get in my program unless your mother and father come for the first month. Reason why I do it that way is because I've learned from past experience. If I teach you a whole lot of things and give you the tools to make you better, but still put you back in an environment or a house that's toxic, I'm wasting my time. Because your mother and father are still living in toxic things. Your friends and them are still living in toxic things. This is your community that you grew up with. I need to know who your friends are. I need to know who your mom's is. I need to know who your father is. This is what healing is about. This is what All Hearts Heal and Prison Mind is about. We're about healing. We're about healing the mind. We're about healing the heart. Most of our young adults and myself is still going through therapeutic things as myself, right? So what I said, let's find the underlying thing that's your problem. Those closest to the problem is the solution. That meaning you first. I was the problem in the streets, but I was the closest solution to change that problem. I did it on a regular basis. I've been doing it for 11 years.
So you said you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Say that again?
You said you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay. So I have 2 books. The author of this book is called Jaquan White. How the Hell Did I Get Here is the first book. The second book is called Don't Blame Me, Blame Trauma. So what I did, I took Don't Blame Me, Blame Trauma and broke down every chapter inside how the hell did I get here. So every chapter that I talked about from my 5-year-old experience to my 13-year-old experience to my 15-year-old experience, I'm breaking it down and Don't Blame Me, Blame Trauma. This is why I did the things I did. Right? So Don't Blame Me, Blame Trauma is breaking down this book, which is called How the Hell Did I Get Here? The book, How the Hell Did I Get Here, is a novel. But Don't Blame Me, Blame Trauma is a breakdown of the novel. And it's showcasing why I did the things I did at an early age and why I did the things I'm doing now at the age I am now.
So because of that, were you able to study a little bit about the trauma? How did you learn the educational aspect of trauma? Did you have to do a lot of studying?
So I went to a school called ITM New School, right? The ITM New School, it teaches about trauma reform care, and it was crazy at first, right? Because he was asking me questions that he was diving in, and I'm sitting here like, nah, bro, that's too much information. And he's like, no, the only way I can figure out what to do with you in the classroom, I need to know what you're dealing with, because you're going to be around other individuals that's going to be awakening. You might say certain things that they might can identify with, and you might hear certain things that you might identify with, and you're going to have to join in. So what I did, I said, yeah, okay, well, teach me about trauma. What is trauma, right? And why is it there? And why do certain things happen when it's triggering? And by doing that and learning and going through the process of others and hearing their stories, I was like, whoa, this is just what our neighborhoods and communities going through. Our young adults ain't really a problem child. They are a traumatic child. So they are traumatic children.
You believe that trauma is the reason why we do what we do? You believe that trauma is the reason why many people do the things they do, the negative things?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. If that's the case, then is trauma to be blamed? Is trauma the reason? Should we blame trauma for everything?
I would say, if you're gonna go back to the beginning of anything, say you have a gang leader, right? That never had support for what he was going through, right? But now he's teaching it to a young lady and a young man that's spilling it out in our community. But they don't think it's wrong because it's coming from somebody they looked up to, right? He taught this. He implemented these things in them. But at the same time, he was a traumatic individual. He was dealing with a lot of things he never healed. He never healed from the things he was going through. He's passing down these traumatic experiences to our young kids. So everything has a cause and effect. You agree?
I agree, but we have to be careful not to blame trauma on everything, because our response doesn't have to be negative when trauma attacks.
That's just like anger.
Say again?
And that's just like anger.
Exactly.
Like anger is a good emotion, right? People don't think it's a good emotion, but anger is a good emotion. What makes it bad is what you do after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you.
True. So as we get ready to turn to a curve, I want you got an audience right now. I want you to take these last couple of minutes and encourage. I want you to tell the people why that we can do things differently. Encourage the listeners right now, whether they're young, older, or gangbangers. Encourage them.
Look, man, I believe in the mirror image, right? And the mirror image is simple, man. You know, a lot of times we do the things that we do because we don't see ourselves doing it, right? We don't see ourselves doing it. But if we look back and this video is played in front of you, you will realize that, oh damn, that's not me. I didn't do that. It couldn't have been me. But now I'm showing you a video of what you did, right? Nobody wants something to be played back to them negative. Because everybody think, oh, their mother or father or grandmother or grandfather think they have a good son or a good daughter. My mother thought I was a good guy. My grandfather loved me to death. Like, oh, he won't never do nothing bad, right? What we do something bad. And why we do something bad? Because most of the times, like I said earlier, we adapt to the things in our surroundings. We adapt to the things around us. And by you adapting to it, you cling on to these things. These are like utensils, right? You can't eat your food without a fork and a spoon or a knife, without somebody looking at you as a caveman or a cave woman. If I go in a place, now let's be real. If I go in a place in a restaurant and I start digging in my food with my hands, I'm gonna look down upon, right? So we gotta look at the world as a restaurant. And like we got people around us that's judging us every moment. My right-hand man said something to me that made a whole lot of sense. The reason why our abilities and our potential is always disappearing, because we living in a world like Tetris. Tetris, right? The game Tetris, I don't know if y'all know about the game Tetris. In the game Tetris, the idea of the game is to put a piece in place, and the quicker you do it, it disappears. The quicker you put this piece in, it disappears. The quicker you put this piece in, it disappears. It's just like your abilities. It's just like your potential to be great. You're not becoming great, and you're not honing in on your uniqueness. It's because you're too busy trying to be like the other people around you. You're disappearing. This is the game of life, man. Either you playing checkers, you playing chess, or you playing Tetris. Which one you want to be? I don't want to be the piece that disappears every minute. I want to be the piece that's always building, always creating, finding my true potential, finding my purpose. Let's play chess. Let's make everybody that's a pawn into a king or a queen.
Okay. I appreciate that, James. Listen, man, I thank you for coming on, and I thank you for just allowing us an opportunity to hear your story. I thank you for your success and how you're helping others around you to be successful. And we just wanted to let your story of success be heard. So for those that are listening to us, as always, we appreciate you joining us on Fridays here at Ain't to Ain't. We may have started this thing out wrong, but look at us now. We are finishing strong. We'll see you next Friday on another edition of Ain't to Ain't. Have a good night.
Peace.